the right-wing echo machine has already sort of geared up to push back on the fact that we had a white supremacist murder spree over the weekend in Buffalo. And they are trying to argue that things like, replacement theory and this and that, these are all just boogeymen that are just been created, not really real. Here's Ben Shapiro trying to argue that, replacement theory, at least it's not being woke.
Now, what the left is trying to do is broaden out the term great replacement theory to include any sort of normal concerns about illegal immigration, any suggestions that demographic voting patterns make a difference, which, of course, everybody, both left and right, knows that they do. I mean, the left has been claiming for literally as long as I've been alive, changing demographic patterns in the United States were going to shift the politics of the country in a progressive direction. This is the base of Roy Teixeira's The Emerging Democratic Majority in 2003. So if you want to talk about the great replacement theory and what this person actually thought, you have to actually read the manifesto, and you actually have to know what the great replacement theory is. The great replacement theory is the theory that essentially there are a bunch of Jewish elites, and this coterie of Jewish elites wishes to pervert the racial stock of a country like the United States, a predominantly white country, in order to weaken the country from within. That is the great replacement theory. It is not concerns about illegal immigration. It is not concerns about cultural assimilation. The great replacement theory is the idea there can never be cultural assimilation. The great replacement theory is the idea that racism, that race is destiny. In fact, the racial essentialism of great replacement theory looks a lot more like wokeism than it does like mainstream conservatism.
Pause it. Hold on for 1 second. Hold on. I love the leap he takes here. How is it that these great replacement theory purveyors, like, I don't know, hypothetically speaking, like Tucker Carlson, how is it that they presume this replacement's going to take place? It's not immigration. What is it like? How is that going to happen? Anybody? There's no answer to that question, because it is, of course, the primary argument, particularly now, right? I mean, we had somebody call in yesterday about immigration is going to ruin our economy. There's not a single shred of data from the history of this country that suggests that immigration is going to hurt our economy. There is a lot of data which suggests that when you curb immigration, you have real problems with your economy. Ask Georgia when they got very restrictive with immigrants and had no one to pick their peaches. What happened to their economy when that took place? We have 11 million open jobs in this country.
Labor shortage.
And
as they say,
and it on one hand, it is empowered a lot of workers, but the idea that we would have 11 million people come across the border tomorrow if we just ushered people in is absurd. It's just absurd. So there's no. What are the implications for people? Well, they're dirty, I guess, according to Tucker Carlson. At one point he said, but what else?
Frankly, I think there's most of the right, if they were really honest about it, does want some sort of like illegal immigration or subset of people who they can demonize as dirty and section off from society and use those justifications as a way to deny them fair wages, access to health care, all of these things that regular citizens can have. That's like the twofer that they get when they traffic in great replacement theory, rhetoric, which Shapiro there is only using the explicit definition of it and is whitewashing all of the other ways that it's danced around or hinted at regularly in Republican discourse.
All right, continue on with him attempting, and like what? Talk about trying to conflate replacement theory. Now he's saying that wokeism is more problematic than this great replacement theory.
Or that they're two sides of the same coin, which is hilarious.
A lot more like wokeism than it does like mainstream conservatism or mainstream liberalism. Neither of the two major Democratic parties is a believer that simply because you are of a particular race, this means that you are inherently genetically designed in order to vote a particular way. That is relegated to the wokest left, and it's relegated to the white supremacist right, who sort of join hands in this belief.
Pause it for 1 second. I just want people to just absorb what he just said.
Yeah.
There is no woke of the wokest who believes that brown people or anybody is genetically designed to vote for a specific party. I mean, he's literally can't even get through his argument that replacement theory has nothing to do with conservatism, as he is imposing upon this sort of race essentialist perspective on everything.
And frankly, the demographic shifts that he's describing, and the 2003 paper or whatever on it about how eventually the U.S. would become a majority minority country, that by progressives has been kind of pushed aside and decried as naive and frankly an unhelpful attitude electorally, because you can't just take certain demographic groups for granted to vote Democrat. I mean, I think we've had guests on this program who have argued that kind of thinking is actually harmful for Democrats electorally. Well,
that's true.
I mean, I would argue that.
The book was written without a doubt, but it also wasn't necessarily a plan. It wasn't a plan. It wasn't a plan to replace white people.
And certainly it did not make claims about genetic connections to voting. It's just a straw man.
We know that Jews, for instance, overwhelmingly support Democratic candidates. Overwhelmingly. I think it numbers maybe higher than any other group in the country. I think Ben would argue they're not genetically predispositioned to doing that. He would also pretend that they're not real Jews because of it, because he's the Pope of the Jews. But the point being that, yes, there are trends. Recognizing those trends is not the same as saying that we should replace white people.
That's the big conflation, which is the Stefanik and all those sorts of Republicans are making this same conflation, that was an active plan by the Democrats, when actually what it was, and what we were complaining about the entire time, was it was a passive thing. And you look at something like DACA, that was the previously bipartisan solution to the harm caused by hardening the borders in recent history.
Yep.
And that's always forgotten, that actually this isn't just some timeless thing where we can't historicize. Reagan supported that amnesty because that was right after the border had just been hardened, and we needed to, because previously before then people had been migratory for labor right across the border, and the hardening of the border back then is what caused all these problems, frankly.
All right, allow the Pope to continue.
Race and know inherently how you're going to vote and how your kids are going to vote and how your grandkids are going to vote. But basic concerns over illegal immigration and how that shifts voting patterns, that is not the great replacement theory. Concerns about whether new immigrants to the United States are going to assimilate to the American way of life, that's not the great replacement theory. So what the left is trying to do is take the classical great replacement theory, a neo-Nazi white supremacist theory, and then conflate that with all of these other normal concerns, and then say, if you have those concerns, you are part of the movement that led to this mass shooting in Buffalo, New York.
That was the second normal of the segment, because he just ascribes it normality as opposed to proving it. And
I would love for him to have a debate with Tucker Carlson, who has explicitly said over and over again, they're looking to replace you. I mean, literally, you could see that.
Yeah, that was a good laugh. Yeah,
times.
Right.
And that is he's literally saying they are trying to replace you. And so the conflation is frankly on behalf of Ben Shapiro, who doesn't want, who needs to provide space for his audience to embrace the great replacement theory without feeling like they're embracing the great replacement theory.
And frankly, for him, it's self-preservation, because when he if he has to fully grapple with the deep anti-Semitism of his peers, that's a difficult pill to swallow. You've just got to go on the offensive.
Well, the upside for Shapiro is that on one hand, he has to watch out because he is basically his colleagues in that world are supporting a theory that the Jews are controlling everything. Meanwhile, what he does is he passes it forward by saying to his buddy Dave Rubin, I would never go to your wedding.
Yeah, right. Playing hot potato.
Yeah, exactly.
just a trip down memory lane. This is from a blog post. Media accused Steve King, R of Iowa, of racism. Their line. Read his actual words, and then there's an update that says, "Actually, I was wrong. Steve King is."
Who wrote that article?
That's Ben Shapiro.
Well, to be fair, that was almost 5 full years ago. So that's
So when Stefanik tweets out replace, or other Republican elected officials say the word replacement, what's his explanation for that?
I wonder what the most famous chant at Charlottesville was.
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, let's be honest, folks. The idea of replace. What is it? What is it that is supposedly being replaced? They're not going. No, he's going away. It is. They are attempting to dislodge the power that we have right now. That is what they're talking about. They're not talking about like physically replacing somebody. It's not like you're going to evaporate. We're going to let one immigrant at the border, and then we're going to expel a white person out, the other side in Maine or something, and put them adrift into Nova Scotia. They are talking about power. That's what they mean with "you will not replace us." It means that you will not shove us out of our position of power in this society that is a function of our race.
Yep. We will maintain white power that was given to us through, all the history we know about in this country, ethnic quotas and that sort of thing.